Welcome to our show entitled IPCC Special Report on Climate Change and Land, Heralding a Plant-Powered Global Food System, Part 1 of 2. Today, we are excited to feature a landmark report released in August 2019 by the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, a Shining World Leadership for Life-Saving Hero Award Laureate 2019, titled Special Report on Climate Change and Land. IPCC is the body established by the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, and the World Meteorological Organization, WMO, in 1988 to provide policymakers with regular scientific assessments concerning climate change. It was the recipient of the 2007 Nobel Peace Prize for its work on climate change. The Climate Change and Land Special Report is the second in a series of special reports and comes in at more than 1,300 pages. It mobilized hundreds of scientists from around the world, including more than 100 lead authors and review editors from 52 countries around the globe who collaborated on the project for more than 2 years. Since they referenced thousands of scientific publications in the process, the report can be said to represent the global scientific community. In addition, since IPCC special reports have to be signed off by almost every government of the world, they also represent the consensus of the world leaders. For the special reports, the majority of the scientists are not paid, but are volunteers who donate their time on top of their regular jobs. According to surveys and interviews with the scientists, many of them are motivated by a keen sense of urgency regarding the deepening climate change crisis. To understand their concern, perhaps the best way is to revisit the first special report titled The Special Report on Global Warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius, released in October 2018. The Secretary-General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, categorized the iconic report as a thunderous wake-up call for humanity. The report warned that humanity has only 12 years remaining until 2030 to take drastic actions to meet the goal of the 2016 Paris Climate Agreement, namely to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, at least well under 2 degrees Celsius. The Secretary-General spoke about this urgency in 2018.
We face a direct existential threat. Climate change is moving faster than we are, and its speed has provoked a sonic boom SOS across our world. If we do not change course by 2020, we risk missing the point where we can avoid runaway climate change with disastrous consequences for people and all the natural systems that sustain us. And that is why today I'm appealing for leadership from politicians, from business and scientists, and from the public everywhere. We have the tools to make our actions effective. What we still lack, even after the Paris Agreement, is the leadership and the ambition to do what is needed. Dear friends, let there be no doubt about the urgency of the crisis.
To the Secretary-General and the IPCC members, a 2 degrees Celsius rise above pre-industrial levels by 2100 is unacceptable because of the potential for a cataclysmic runaway global warming. The 2018 report also outlined numerous other serious consequences of a 2 degrees Celsius global temperature rise.
The report highlights a number of climate change impacts that could be avoided by limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade compared to 2 degrees centigrade or more. For instance, by 2100, global sea level rise would be 10 centimeters lower with global warming of 1.5 degrees centigrade, compared with 2 degrees centigrade. The likelihood of an Arctic Ocean free of sea ice in summer would be once per century with global warming of 1.5 degrees centigrade, compared with at least once per decade with 2 degrees centigrade. Coral reefs would decline by 70 to 90% with global warming of 1.5 degrees centigrade, whereas virtually all, greater than 99%, would be lost with 2 degrees centigrade.
Concerned and responsible viewers, let us take a few moments to pray for a beautiful world and a return to Eden on earth for our future generations. We will be back momentarily. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Welcome back, Earth-caring friends. The 2018 IPCC first special report found that in order to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, global net human-caused emissions of carbon dioxide, CO2, would need to fall by about 45% from 2010 levels by 2030, reaching net zero around 2050. The reality, however, is that governments lag far behind on their pledges to date. Moreover, according to the UN World Meteorological Organization, we are in fact heading for a 3 to 5 degrees Celsius temperature rise by the end of the century. Fortunately, the newly released second special report on climate change and land brings revitalized hope with its wise, clear policy suggestions. The key message of the report is that in order to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, better land use, halting deforestation, and cutting down on food waste must be the priorities. The report makes it clear that highly potent greenhouse gases, methane and nitrous oxide, represented by the yellow and brown lines in the chart shown, have steadily increased by about 1.7 times since 1961, and must be reined in rapidly. By IPCC's estimates, 33% of global methane emissions come from livestock. When examining this data, it is important to understand that methane and nitrous oxide are far more destructive to the atmosphere than CO2 in the near term. They are 72 times and 298 times more temperature-raising than CO2 respectively. So their seemingly smaller percentage, as shown in the chart, nevertheless represent in fact highly significant damage. The combination of these three gases has set up global climate feedback loops that are already wreaking havoc and will continue to escalate for hundreds of years to come if we are slow to act. The authors of the report clearly note that livestock production is a major contributor of methane, nitrous oxide, deforestation, and food waste. They have therefore highlighted the need for immediate reduction of meat and dairy consumption as a key solution. For the first time, an IPCC report demonstrates scientifically that a plant-strong diet is needed to avoid climate catastrophe. In the words of the IPCC Special Report Working Group 3 co-chair Jim Skier,
what we've pointed out on the basis of the scientific evidence is that there are certain types of diets that have a lower carbon footprint and put less pressure on land. A move to more balanced diets could help us adapt to and limit climate change. Some diets require more land and water and lead to higher emissions than others. For example, diets that are high in grains, nuts and vegetables have a lower carbon footprint than those that are high in meat, and they lead to better health outcomes.
In a 2009 conference, the world-renowned humanitarian and spiritual master, Supreme Master Ching Hai, shared with attendees that the greenhouse gas emissions from animal agriculture actually exceed 50% of total human-caused emissions. much more than the previously reported 14.5%. This assessment is supported scientifically by an exhaustive report entitled Livestock and Climate Change, released by the World Watch Institute in 2009, authored by World Bank Group researchers Jeff and Hang and the late Robert Goodland.
One of the most effective and fastest way to reduce the heat in the atmosphere is to eliminate methane production. Methane not only traps up to 72 times more heat than carbon, it also goes away from the atmosphere much faster than CO2. So if we stop producing methane, the atmosphere will cool more quickly than if we stop producing carbon dioxide. So to cool the planet most quickly, we have to stop consuming meat in order to stop the livestock raising industry, and thus stop greenhouse gases, methane, and other toxic gases from animal industry. We would then have time to actually be able to adopt longer-term measures, such as more green technology, to also remove the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. In fact, if we neglect to stop meat production, either all these green efforts will be cancelled out in effect, or we might lose the planet before we even having a chance to install any green technology such as the wind power or solar power, or more hybrid cars for that reason. Please also keep in mind that although livestock has been reported to generate 18% of global greenhouse gas emissions, which is more than the world's transportation sectors combined, this is actually an underestimate, because recently revised calculations have placed it at generating possibly more than 50% of total global emission. I repeat, livestock has been recalculated as to generate possibly more than 50% of total global emissions.
Upon hearing of the recommendations of the IPCC's second report, encouraging governments to promote a plant-strong diet, Supreme Master Qinghai was overjoyed and immediately honoured the committee and United Nations a Shining World Leadership for Life-Saving Hero Award with utmost gratitude, highest esteem and all blessing in God's love. We pray these urgent recommendations are quickly and thoroughly heeded by governments, organisations and people around the world. We are profoundly indebted to the dedicated IPCC scientists who have worked selflessly to distill such vital information for humankind. We are also grateful beyond measure to Supreme Master Qinghai, whose love and wisdom continue to shine the path towards a world of benevolence, harmony and abundance. For more information on the IPCC Special Report Climate Change and Land, please visit ipcc.ch/SRCCL.
All information concerning the scientific evidence of climate change and its solution is in Supreme Master Qinghai's book, From Crisis to Peace, free to download at crisistopeace.org.
Illumin viewers, thank you for gracing us with your loving presence today.